Aaron Hale stood at the edge of the landing ramp as the shuttle doors opened, revealing the silver-blue sky of Visara Prime. The air shimmered with soft light, and giant towers rose like crystal spears toward the clouds. He felt a twist in his stomach, not from fear, but from the weight of responsibility. Humans had been trying to reach peaceful contact with the Visari Empire for years, yet no one had ever been invited to the Empress's palace. Until today. He stepped forward calmly, even though two tall guards flanked the path. They were Visari warriors, their armor smooth and glowing faintly. Their helmets hid their faces, but their posture made it clear they were not impressed by a human visitor. Aaron kept walking with steady breaths. He had trained for diplomacy missions, practiced handling pressure, and learned basic Visari customs. Still, nothing in his training prepared him for the strange rule everyone whispered about. Anyone who wanted peace must either fight the Empress or choose another path, one far more mysterious and rarely accepted. A Visari advisor, wearing long silver robes, waited for him. "Human representative," the advisor said in a soft, controlled voice. "You will follow me. Do not speak unless spoken to. The Empress values strength, but also clarity." Aaron nodded. "I understand." As they walked through the palace, he looked around with quiet awe. The walls weren't made of stone or metal. They seemed grown, like living crystal. Soft light ran through them like veins. The air was calm and cool, and every hallway felt shaped with purpose. He saw Visari citizens move silently through the palace, tall and graceful, each one stopping to stare at the human. Aaron returned a polite nod, trying not to show how overwhelmed he felt. The advisor eventually stopped before two giant crystal doors. "Beyond this," he said, "is the Hall of Trials. You will meet Empress Zira Velen. She is the strongest ruler our people have known. Her tests are never simple. Many failed before you." Aaron answered in a steady tone. "I came to succeed." The advisor studied his face for a moment and then tapped a glowing panel. The enormous doors slid open with a deep hum. Aaron stepped into a vast hall where the ceiling stretched impossibly high, filled with swirling lights like drifting stars. At the far end, on a raised platform, sat the throne, a massive structure shaped like curved wings. And on that throne sat the Empress. Zira Velen did not wear heavy armor or jeweled robes. Instead, she wore a simple yet powerful suit of fitted crystal-woven fabric that shifted in color with her movement. She had a tall, strong frame and sharp, intelligent eyes that focused on Aaron the moment he entered. Her presence alone filled the room, and Aaron felt something like pressure on his chest, as if her attention carried weight. The hall grew silent. Aaron walked forward slowly until he stood at the center, where a mark glowing on the ground showed him where to stop. He lifted his head and met the Empress's gaze. She studied him without blinking. "So," she said, her voice echoing through the hall like a soft storm. "A human has finally come to stand before me. Many sent messages, many requested peace. But you are the first to arrive in person." Aaron kept his voice calm. "I came to build a bridge between our species, Empress." "Bridges are easy to break," she replied. "Words are easy to twist, but actions, those tell the truth." She rose from her throne and descended the steps slowly, her movements silent and controlled. "Tell me your name, human." "Aaron Hale." "Aaron," she repeated, tasting the sound. "Your people seek peace. My empire seeks strength. And so the ancient rule remains. Any representative who stands in this hall must face one decision." She stopped only a few steps away from him. Her eyes were sharp, but there was something else behind them, something thoughtful, maybe even weary. "Fight me," she said, "or love me." The hall fell into complete silence. Aaron had expected a challenge, maybe even a combat test. But hearing the exact words felt surreal. He stood still, processing the meaning. Every report said the same. The Empress tested outsiders by forcing them to show either courage in battle or courage in commitment. But people always chose the first. The second path, the one tied to loyalty and connection, was feared because its meaning was vague and its requirements unknown. The Empress watched him carefully. "Most choose to fight. Most fail," she said. "The second option demands more than weapons or speed. It demands honesty, respect, and the courage to face emotional truth. Few accept it. Even fewer pass." He looked into her eyes and saw strength, yes, but also a quiet loneliness. She was a ruler surrounded by people who feared her. Every visitor had come with pride or hidden motives. Perhaps none had come with simple sincerity. He took a slow breath. "Before I choose, may I ask what each path means, in your eyes?" "You may," she said, clearly surprised by his request. "If you fight me, you must defeat me or withstand my strength long enough to impress me. It is a path of force and resistance." "And the other?" he asked gently. "To choose love," she said in a steady voice, "means choosing connection. It means accepting a bond of trust. It means standing beside me without lies or fear. Not romantic affection. Do not misunderstand. It means loyalty built on truth. It means understanding, not force." Erin nodded slowly. Her definition removed much of the misunderstanding others had twisted into rumors. The second path was not about romance or possession. It was about emotional strength. It was about trust. "I see," he said softly. "And now," she said, "you must choose." The hall watched him. The guards watched him. The advisor watched him. It felt like every corner of the empire was waiting for his answer. He remembered the videos he'd seen, the stories told by failed diplomats. They all chose battle. They failed. They returned angry or wounded. They never looked deeper into what the Empress really wanted, to see the true heart of another being. He knew what he needed to choose. "I choose the second," Erin said. His voice did not shake. "I choose love, not romance, not fear, connection, trust, peace." A murmur moved through the hall. The advisor looked stunned. The guards shifted in disbelief. No one expected a human or anyone to choose the second path so calmly. The Empress blinked once. For the first time, her face softened. Only slightly, but enough for him to notice. "You choose this without hesitation." "There is always hesitation," he admitted, "but peace requires difficult choices. I cannot fight a leader I want to understand." Empress Zira circled him slowly, studying him from every angle, as though trying to see if he hid fear or falsehood. "You are either very brave," she said, "or very foolish." "Perhaps both," he replied with a small smile. She stopped in front of him. "Then your test begins now. Choosing the second path means you must remain in my palace for one full cycle. During that time you will face challenges. Not combat, not strength, but challenges that test your heart, your truth, your patience, and your honor." "I accept," Erin said. "Good," she replied. "Let us see if humans can keep their promises." The Empress gestured for him to follow. He walked beside her through another corridor, this one calmer, dimmer, filled with swirling lights like drifting spirits. Zira walked in silence for a while before speaking again. "Why did you choose this?" she asked quietly, not in a harsh tone, but in a genuinely curious one. "Because when you spoke," he said, "you didn't look like someone who wanted another opponent. You looked like someone who wanted someone honest." She stopped walking. It was clear his words reached her deeper than expected. "You see much for someone who has been here only moments." "I try to listen," he replied. After a long pause, she continued walking. Very well. We will see if your listening is strong enough to last the cycle. He was guided to a guest chamber, large and filled with soft violet light. The walls shifted slightly as though breathing. A small group of attendants gave him a respectful bow and told him to rest, but he could feel eyes on him at all times. The palace wanted to know if he was sincere. That night, he didn't sleep immediately. He sat by the window looking out at the glowing city. He wondered what kind of tests awaited him. He wondered what the Empress expected him to prove. He wondered if humans could truly change the way an entire empire viewed them. But he also felt something else. Hope. The Empress had looked at him differently than she looked at anyone else in the hall. Not with contempt or pride, but with curiosity. The next morning he was called to meet her again. She stood in a quiet courtyard where crystal trees grew like frozen lightning. She waited for him beside a pool of still water. Your first test, she said, is simple. Walk with me. Aaron joined her, and they walked slowly through the garden. Visari nobles watched from a distance, whispering to each other as the Empress strolled with a human. Zira asked him questions, not about strategy or war, but about life, values, beliefs. She asked what humans feared most, what humans admired, what humans hoped for the galaxy. Aaron answered honestly each time. He didn't exaggerate or hide anything. At one point she asked, "What do you see when you look at me? Do not lie." He turned and faced her. "I see someone who carries the weight of a powerful empire alone. I see strength. But I also see someone who wants to be understood." Her eyes softened again. "You see too much," she murmured. "Or perhaps just enough." As the cycle began, Aaron's tests grew more complex. He was placed before a council that insulted humans openly, trying to provoke him. He stayed calm and answered every challenge with respect. He was asked to give advice on a conflict between two young Visari groups, and he listened carefully before offering a peaceful solution. He walked through busy marketplaces where citizens stared at him with caution or disbelief. Yet he treated everyone with patience and kindness. Every evening, the Empress watched him from a distance. She observed how he moved and how he spoke. She noted how he never tried to win attention or approval. He simply acted with sincerity. She began speaking to him more personally. She told him stories of the empire's history, the burdens of leadership, the loneliness of command. He listened without judgment, and that alone seemed to surprise her more than anything else. One evening he asked, "Empress, may I ask you something personal?" "You may ask," she said, "but I may choose not to answer. Why did you create the rule of fight or love?" She looked out at the glowing skyline. "Because long ago, I learned that strength alone cannot build trust. I needed a test that revealed more than power, something that showed the heart of a visitor." "And has anyone passed the second path before?" "Not in many years," she said quietly. He nodded. "Then I'm honored to try." She looked at him, studying him again with a deep, searching gaze. Something in her expression changed that moment. Something soft, almost human. "You are different from the others," she said, "but your test is not finished." Aaron felt a wave of determination. He didn't come here to pretend. He came to show that humans could choose peace, not because they were weak, but because they were strong in another way. As the cycle continued, rumors spread across the palace that the human was passing every challenge. Some nobles disliked it, some admired it, some felt threatened. But the Empress watched everything closely, and every day she saw something new in him. One night, after a long day of tasks, she called him to a private balcony where the two moons shone above the palace. They stood side by side, letting the cool wind pass through. "You have done well so far," she said. "Better than any outsider before you." I'm not trying to impress anyone, he replied gently. I'm trying to understand. And that, she said softly, is what impresses me. For the first time, she allowed a small, genuine smile to appear. Brief, but real. The cycle was not yet over. The greatest tests were still ahead. But something had already changed between them. She no longer saw him as a strange visitor. She no longer looked at humans with doubt. Instead, she saw possibility. And Aaron, standing under the silver moonlight, knew that his choice, the second path, the path of trust, had been the right one. The future between humans and the Visari Empire now depended on what happened next. The next morning began like the others, but the atmosphere in the palace felt heavier. Aaron noticed it the moment he stepped into the corridor. Guards whispered to one another as he passed. Advisors moved quickly, their faces tense. Even the glowing walls seemed dimmer. When he reached the garden where Empress Zyra often waited for him, she stood alone beside the crystal trees, her posture sharper than before. She turned to him slowly, her expression unreadable. "Today," she said, "your tests become more difficult." Aaron nodded calmly. "I am ready." "You have proven patience and honesty and kindness," she continued. "But now I must see something deeper, something rare. Humans call it loyalty. We call it the strength of the inner spirit." "I will do my best," he replied. She watched him for a moment, as if searching his face for doubt. "Follow me." They walked through a long hallway that descended into the deeper levels of the palace. The air became cooler, the lights dimmer. Aaron had never been allowed this far before. Zyra said nothing for a long time as they walked, and the silence wrapped around them like a veil. Finally, they reached a chamber lit only by soft blue flames floating in the air. Inside, a group of high-ranking Visari council members waited. They faced Aaron as Zyra stepped forward. "This council has questions for you," she said. "Their approval is part of your test." One of the council members stepped forward, his presence cold and stern. "Human," he said, "you have impressed our Empress, but we are not impressed so easily. You claim to choose connection, trust, and peace. But words are simple. Show us the truth." Another council member spoke next. "Why should our empire trust your species? Humans are emotional. Humans are unpredictable. Humans change their minds quickly. Why should we accept you?" Aaron took a breath. He knew these questions weren't meant to be friendly. They wanted to see if he would break under pressure. Instead of arguing, he answered with calm honesty. "Humans are emotional," he said. "But that is not weakness. It is the reason we form strong bonds. It is the reason we protect the people we care about. It is the reason we seek peace when we can, instead of endless war." A third council member stepped forward. "Do you understand what it means to support the Empress? If you choose loyalty, you must stand beside her even when others stand against her, even when danger rises." Aaron did not look away. "Yes," he said, "I understand." The council exchanged glances. Then they began asking harder questions. Questions about human history, questions about conflicts, questions meant to test his patience and courage. Aaron answered each one honestly. He didn't pretend humanity was perfect. He didn't deny past mistakes. Instead, he explained how humans learned, grew, and tried to improve. At the end of the questioning, the council fell silent. Zyra stepped beside him. "You have heard his answers," she said. "Do you accept them?" One council member bowed slightly. "His honesty is real." Another nodded. "His spirit is balanced." A third said nothing, but his silence felt like agreement. The Empress turned to Aaron. "You have passed this test." Aaron bowed his head respectfully. "Thank you." But Zyra didn't look relieved. She looked thoughtful, almost concerned. Something was bothering her, and Aaron could feel it. As the council left the chamber, she motioned for him to follow her again. They walked back toward the upper levels of the palace, but halfway up the stairs, a guard rushed toward them. "Empress," he said urgently, "there is trouble in the lower district. A group of rebels has broken the energy barriers. They are demanding to speak with you." Zira's eyes narrowed. "Rebels," she repeated, her voice low. "So they finally show themselves." Aaron watched her face. This wasn't just political trouble. This was personal. She turned to him slowly. "You must stay in the palace," she said. "Your tests cannot involve danger." He shook his head. "You should not go alone." "I am not alone," she replied. "I have my warriors." "That is not what I meant," he said softly. "I know you are strong, but strength does not mean you must face everything without support." For a moment, the Empress said nothing. Her expression softened, just for a heartbeat. "Aaron," she said quietly, "you chose trust. But trust does not mean risking your life for a conflict that is not yours." He held her gaze. "You asked for loyalty. You asked for courage. Let me show them." The guard waited tensely. Zira looked between him and Aaron, her jaw tightening. Finally, she exhaled slowly. "Very well," she said. "You may come, but stay close to me, and obey my words without question." "I promise," he said. They moved quickly through the palace and out into the city. Visara Prime shimmered with bright colors even during moments of tension. The crystals in the streets glowed brighter as energy lines shifted. Citizens moved aside when the Empress passed. Many stared at the human walking beside her, unsure what to think. When they reached the lower district, a group of rebels stood at the entrance of a crystal plaza. Their armor was dark, their weapons humming with unstable energy. Aaron noticed their leader, a tall Visari with sharp eyes and a trembling voice filled with anger. "Empress Zira," the rebel leader shouted. "Your rule grows too soft. You speak of peace. You invite outsiders. You forget our strength." Zira stepped forward with calm authority. "You break the law. You endanger civilians. And you claim it is to protect the empire? Explain yourself." "We want a leader who fears nothing," the rebel said. "Not one who listens to aliens." Aaron felt every eye shift toward him. He stayed silent, remembering his promise. "You speak of fear," the Empress said, "but you attack unarmed citizens. That is not strength. That is confusion." The rebels tensed. Their weapons glowed brighter. The Empress raised her hand. Every Visari warrior behind her prepared for battle. Aaron sensed the danger rising. The tension was sharp, like the air before a storm. The rebel leader aimed his weapon at the Empress. Zira moved quickly, stepping in front of her warriors, but before she could react further, Aaron stepped forward without thinking. He placed himself between her and the rebel leader. The rebel leader froze. The crowd gasped. Even Zira's warriors looked shocked. Aaron kept his hands raised and his voice calm. "You think inviting me makes the Empress weak," he said. "But she did it because she is strong enough to listen, strong enough to try something new. That is real strength." The rebel leader stared at him, confused. "Why do you protect her? You are human." "Because she chose trust," Aaron said, "and I chose the same." For a moment, everything was still. Then the rebel leader fired. The blast hit Aaron in the shoulder. He stumbled but did not fall. Zira caught his arm, shock and fury flashing across her face. Her eyes burned with a fire Aaron had never seen before. She stepped in front of him, raised her hand, and with a single wordless command, her warriors disarmed the rebels in a swift motion. None were harmed, only restrained. The rebels dropped to their knees as warriors surrounded them. Zira turned to Aaron, her voice quiet but trembling slightly. "Why did you do that?" He pressed his hand against his shoulder, feeling heat but no serious injury. The Visari weapons were designed to stun, not destroy. "I told you," he said softly. Loyalty. She stared at him. For the first time, he saw something unguarded in her eyes, fear of loss mixed with something deeper. She placed her hand lightly on his uninjured arm, guiding him away from the crowd. "Come with me," she said. "Now." She brought him back to the palace and into her private chamber, a quiet room with soft lights and a large dome of glass showing the 2 moons above them. She made him sit while an attendant treated his wound. When they were alone again, she looked at him with a seriousness that felt heavier than any test. "You stepped in front of a weapon," she said. "For me." "You would have done the same," he replied. "That is not the point," she said, her voice low. "You risked yourself in a conflict that belongs to my people. You risked your life for my safety." "That is what loyalty means," he said gently. She turned away, taking a long breath before speaking again. "Aaron, your cycle is complete. Your tests are finished. You have passed." He felt something lift from his chest, but he could tell her tone still carried deeper meaning. "You proved patience. You proved honesty. You proved courage. But today—" She paused, searching for the right words. "Today you showed something even I did not expect. You placed your trust not only in me but in your choice. And that is something rare." He nodded slightly, letting her speak freely. "I created the rule of fight or love because I wanted to see if anyone could choose something harder than combat. But I never thought someone would choose it with such sincerity." Her voice softened even more. "You changed what I believed possible." Aaron stood slowly, feeling the weight of her words. "Empress, your people look to you for strength. But even the strongest leaders need someone they can trust, someone who stands beside them without fear." She turned to face him again. For a long moment, they simply looked at each other. Not as empress and diplomat, not as alien and human, but as 2 individuals who had learned to understand each other. Finally, she spoke in a quiet voice. "Aaron Hale, the choice you made has changed more than your own future. It has changed mine, and perhaps the future of 2 worlds." He felt warmth rise in his chest. "Then I am grateful for the chance." She stepped closer, her expression no longer stern or guarded. "So am I." Word traveled quickly across the palace. Advisors gathered. Council members returned. Citizens whispered. Everyone waited to hear what the Empress would announce. In the great hall where Aaron had first arrived, Zira addressed them all. She stood tall, her voice carrying across the vast space. "The human Aaron Hale has passed the path of trust," she said. "He has shown courage beyond strength. He has shown honesty beyond pride. And he has shown loyalty beyond expectation." The hall was silent. "From this day forward," she continued, "humans are not outsiders. They are allies of the Visari Empire, and Aaron Hale stands as the first bridge between our worlds." The hall erupted with surprised murmurs. Some noble voices even cheered. The tension that had hovered around humans for years began to crack, slowly but surely. Zira turned to him. Her expression was calm, but her eyes were warm. "You chose love," she said softly, reminding him of the ancient rule. "And in doing so, you showed us all a different kind of strength." Aaron bowed respectfully. "Thank you, Empress." When the hall began to clear, she walked beside him. Her voice was quiet enough that only he could hear it. "Aaron," she said, "the choice you made, it was not easy. It carried weight. But I want you to know something." He looked at her. "What is it?" She held his gaze with steady calm. "You taught me something I had forgotten. That peace can grow not from fear, but from understanding." He nodded gently. "And you reminded me that strength does not always mean standing alone." She allowed herself a small smile. not the formal smile of a ruler. Something warmer, almost human. Together they walked through the palace, side by side. The path between their worlds had only just begun, but it was built on something far stronger than force. It was built on trust, courage, and the choice that had changed everything. And as the two moons of Visara Prime shone brightly above the crystal towers, Aaron knew one thing for certain. Choosing the second path had been the best decision of his life.